What's going on, Sens fans? Welcome back to another post-game coverage. Today we played against Montreal, and we ended up taking it in a shootout. It was a questionable ending to the regulation for sure, but I'm very happy to announce that we have Ross. How do you pronounce it? Sorry.
It's Ross Levithan.
Levitan, that's what I thought. Okay. Locked on Sens podcast, so make sure you go check that out as well. How you doing, Ross?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Back-to-back wins against Montreal doesn't get much better than that, especially in overtime.
Yeah, love to see it.
So I was just saying to Jacob earlier, we've had this is your third guest for our little recap show, and the Sens are 3-0 when there's a guest on the new Era Sens recap. So we'll have to make it more of a regular occurrence, I guess. But yeah,
no pressure, but you kind of have to until they lose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right off real quick, we have Natty commenting, "Hey Ross, congrats on the haircut."
Oh man, no haircut actually. I just tied it up. It looks a little bit better now, but it's tough sledding here in Toronto, man. Nothing we can do. It's been since November 17th. All barbers are shut down. I might have snuck into an underground one when I came home for Christmas, but yeah, it doesn't look like there's an end in sight either. So I definitely appreciate it, but it's just tied back right now. It's pretty gross, gotta be honest.
I know what you mean, man. I had pretty long hair over Christmas, and in January my roommate cut it for me. And in Ottawa they opened up last week, so I went in and the lady just was like, What happened to you? So yeah, I understand what you're going through.
100%. But hey, if the Sens keep winning, it might have to stick around. Who knows? But it's just a pain, to be honest.
Playoff hair.
But yeah, like you said, awesome to have another back-to-back win against the Habs. The first time we won 2 in a row, that was against the Habs as well, wasn't it? Or was it Leafs and then Habs?
It was Jets and then the big comeback.
Oh, right. That was it. Sorry. But yeah, nonetheless, great game right from the get-go. Yeah,
the power play was up and running, which was great. Like, just lots of fun to watch. When they were saying in the intermission that it looks like an elite power play, or it did in the first period anyways, and you wouldn't guess that they're 28th in the league or whatever they were coming into tonight. So watching Stützle and Batherson, I know people want them to flip, but I love them on those off wings there because it generates so many passing options. And I mean, Stützle had like 3 chances in the first alone and couldn't beat Carey Price, but you know, he finally did in the shootout, I guess, but that doesn't count as a goal. But you could just see the reaction. Like, Price had his number all night, and those plays are going to work. I think that was more of the Sens power play taking over than the Habs or their penalty kill being a little less elite.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, Jack. Why is Colin White taking that draw with a minute left after going 1 for 7?
So I'll give DJ the benefit of the doubt, because Derek Stepan would be that guy usually. They've got 2 right-handed centermen, and that was the right-handed strong side. Not good that he was 1 in 7, and obviously loses it too. But at the end of the day, they won the game, and that face-off didn't end up mattering.
Yeah. And bang on. Like, that could have led to something, but it didn't. So let's not worry too much about it. And then Riley here loves the power play and love the energy been seeing in the PK. 100%. Definitely special teams have gotten a lot better. So
Ross, I got a question for you, because we've talked about on the show afterwards. Ever since Brandstrom's kind of come in, and he looked great on the power play, and he got his first goal tonight, which we'll get into. But we've been saying that Brandstrom deserves a look with that top unit. Do you think you would put him there over Shabbat based on tonight?
Yeah, well, based on tonight, yes, but not in terms of your everyday first unit power play. I don't know if he's 100%. You know, he's coming off back-to-back games out of the lineup, but Thomas Shabbat did not look himself. And not only in terms of moving the puck up ice, but defensively, one hand on the stick quite a bit. Took a holding penalty because of that. I just thought that this was maybe the worst game we've seen out of Shabbat all year. And when you're still winning that game, then at the same time, you're kind of looking at that and saying, if we could win with him at his worst, what's going to happen when he's moving the puck like we know he can, and when he's patrolling the blue line? Because we saw even with him out of the lineup last game, that was an 0 for 24 streak. On the 25th try, they finally convert on a power play. But there were signs that it was coming. They were moving the puck a lot better in the last game against Montreal. And despite going, 0 for 4 in that game, I knew it was coming. So I've been saying it for about 3-4 days now. And at the end, you're going to be right eventually. But the signs were there. They were going to get going. And let's just open the floodgates open, because you got a pair tonight. And if you can carry that in, special teams are such a big part of hockey. That and goaltending. And, still that's another question in Ottawa's crease. Although in overtime, he more than made up for maybe a couple he'd like to have back. That breakaway save where he went post, got his skate right to the post on time. I thought that was fantastic goaltending tonight in overtime from Matt Murray.
So goaltending wise, I think we've also talked a lot about, Murray just needs to be better. He doesn't need to put up stellar numbers. He needs to be better than the other goalie, once the offense starts clicking. And I'd say tonight, Price probably made a couple more, highlight reel saves than Murray did. But overall, I think they were pretty even. Price let in at least 2 soft ones. Murray, I want to call the Shea Weber slap shot a soft one, but no screen from the point at the end of the, one you'd like to have. But I agree. The overtime more than made up for it, and the shootout too. He looked pretty great in the shootout. Yeah,
definitely. It's a nice change, because I don't think Ottawa goalies have looked too great in the shootout over the years.
No.
Nice to see a couple big saves from Murray for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can kind of get into the goals first. First off, Batherson, he's 4 goals in the last 5 games now, and he's only got 5 on the season. He's really picking up the pace. And there's a comment here saying that he's turning into a great two-way winger, and I couldn't agree more. He has a lot of offense, but you see him skating back as well. He's got good back check, and he's not quite Nick Paul to me with that back check, but he's developing 100%. Great game by Batherson.
Yeah, right after the World Juniors, when he had 7 goals in 7 games. He's a goal per game with Canada. He came on the podcast before it was even locked on. It was just making sense of the Sens. And we saw his agent started following us. So we're like, hey, can Drake come on? Anyways, we asked him, on those scouting combines, you sometimes see the name. It's like, which NHL player do you model your game after? This was before he was even drafted. And it was Mark Stone. And don't you see some resemblance in their games?
Yes.
Stick lifts, the big, lanky power forwards, maybe looking like they're moving in quicksand sometimes when they're getting up and down the ice. But just a high hockey IQ is so important for a guy like Drake Batherson, knowing how plays are going to develop. And that's why him and Tim Stützle have developed such great chemistry, because they each know where each other's going to be 2 steps ahead rather than where they are now. So once they get a center that can play with them on a consistent basis, and I'm not knocking Stepan, his last handful of games have been his best in Ottawa, but once they get a guy who can move up and down the ice as fast as Stützle can and have Drake kind of carrying behind the play, I think you're looking at an elite combination, because we know in NHL hockey, it's about pairs. And then you find a third guy who can play in that line. Typically, it's a centerman and a winger, but in this case, you have 2 special wingers. Obviously, kind of jury's out what's going to happen with Stützle if he'll move to the middle of the ice. But for now, you do not touch that pair at all. They've looked fantastic together.
So I've been harping a lot saying that Drake Batherson is a carbon copy of Mark Stone, but he looks bigger and he can skate better than Stone ever could.
Yeah,
so that's encouraging.
That's high praise, but it
is.
And you can see the skeleton of it for sure.
But man, you think about, they're both later round picks. Batherson 4th round. I want to say Stone was 6th round.
6th round pick, my best trade in Sens history. Alex Auld for that 6th round pick from Dallas. Thank you.
Exactly. So, but when you think of Mark Stone at age 22, he wasn't even in Ottawa yet, right? So that's when I get excited about Drake Batherson. Sky's the limit for him right now. And
both a goal per game. Stones, he put up a goal per game at the World Juniors as well.
There you go.
He did.
It's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Best thing I like about Drake Batherson too is that he was drafted before this was a rebuild. So he's kind of been kind of with Chabot and White and I guess Formanton too. In that 2017 draft, they weren't even drafting for the rebuild. So it's nice how that falls into place and he's still in the picture.
Yeah, especially how they only had 4 picks in that draft. Obviously, end up trading Shane Bowers as well. And then, your second rounder's looking like he's going to have a bit of a career here eventually once they give him an opportunity. He'll come out of the gate flying, and not only the pun that he's the fastest player in the organization, but I think that Formanton's going to be a nice player. But when you look at the 4th round pick of Batherson there, that is just all-time fantastic diamond in the rough type pick. And Trent Manny gets a lot of credit, and much of it is well deserved. But he's an East Coast boy. He lives in New Brunswick, so he had the down low on an East Coast product like Drake. Passed over in the 2016 draft, and then being a gem in 2017. That's great stuff.
Yeah, definitely good pickup. And like we can even skip to the Tkachuk goal here with that pass. Like just brilliant hockey player. He can make a pass out of anything.
Yeah, I mean that was a fun play to watch. I liked Chabot was kind of getting pinned against the bench, and I'm like, oh, what's he doing? Why is Chabot just letting the player pin him without going for the puck? And Stützle comes in, right? Stützle comes in and he's able to just cycle back and turn it back quickly for the Sens. And then the pass that he gave Batherson, it wasn't a great, like it hopped over a stick and on the board.
Yeah.
The way Batherson received it and then in one motion pretty much just feathered it to Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Like it didn't look like at any point he had full control of that puck. And it was really cool to see him just make something out of nothing, really, because that didn't look like a high danger chance entering the zone. Obviously, once you saw Tkachuk ahead and away, it looked something could happen here, but just there was nothing going on right there. He just made a beautiful pass out of a whiff,
and that's what elite playmakers do. They allow the play to pick up, and they see things that other people don't. And we said it before. Stützle, how many chances did he have? And it was all from passes from Batherson. So this is definitely one of his best games this season, if not since he's been here, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then, again, the finish, like it wasn't the nicest goal Brady Tkachuk's ever scored, but like he got it done and he was real up close and he was very patient with the puck, which we don't really see out of Brady Tkachuk, which I found really noteworthy because he's usually parked out front and just whacking at it. And that's how he gets 9 shots a game. But like that was a good patience and figure out what he was going to do.
I don't think. I mean, Ross, you guys are the goalie friendly show. I mean, I don't think off the bat you're not thinking that's a lethal release from Tkachuk. You just think it squeezes through Price, but it kind of looked like he was showing backhand a little bit and then flipped to the forehand last second. That can be deceptive no matter how slow it is, I guess.
100%, and that's kind of what Brady's made a name for, is just getting greasy goals everywhere on the ice. And I just thought that you knew from the second the puck was dropped, he got physically engaged in the game. And I mean, when you're in the first period, you already have the 2/3, I should say, the way to the Gordie Howe hat trick. That's awesome stuff. I think the best moment of the game, speaking of Brady, his goal was awesome, and we can get into it more. But how about the interaction he had with Stützle when he was in the penalty box? And you knew that they mentioned on the broadcast, I think it was Noodles, said there's an inside joke there somewhere. Well,
for sure.
No, it's the Ben Sherratt going after Stützle. That was a conversation at the Tkachuk household. And Brady probably said, I got you. And he sure did. Sherratt's nose was picture proof of that.
Brady Tkachuk is everything. He brings everything to this team. People say, oh, they need more high-end talent to score goals. He gets 2 goals tonight. They need to bring in Austin Watson and Michael Haley to fight so that the Stars don't have to. Brady Tkachuk has a fight. He's just everywhere on the ice. He does absolutely everything. And I've said this before. He needs to be the next captain of this team, and I think that'll come with an extension. And it seems to be that he's changing that narrative between whether it's going to be him or Chabot, and it's now more of a when is it going to be Brady Tkachuk? I think he's taken over that discussion.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Laleem's Martian today. He tweeted out and said that just the plays Chabot's making today doesn't look captain worthy. I give Chabot the benefit of the doubt that, as you said earlier, Ross, he's not 100%, I don't think. Coming off that injury, he didn't look himself tonight. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But overall, Chabot's taken a lot of lazy penalties this season.
Yes.
Just not moving his feet, reaching with the stick. And I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to see Brady get to see, especially after a game like this where he loses a tooth, beats everything out of Ben Sherratt, 2 goals. It's just perfect captain material.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to think about, especially with the history. If a player's not signed here, thinking long term. But how can you not love watching Tkachuk play hockey? And it's even better against the rivals when he's punishing the Montreal Canadiens like this. It's it's fun, not even just because they're, the closest geographical rival for the Ottawa Senators, but the fact that they had the number 3 pick right before he was drafted, and he just continues to give it to them. This is the 3rd season. And they said it on the broadcast. This is not like Kotkaniemi's been not playing. This is his 3rd season in the NHL at just 20 years old. So good on him for that, but it feels like Tkachuk's been here so much longer than that, and it's also his 3rd season. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think Kotkaniemi played half the season in the AHL last year. I will give him that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's been pro for the last, same as Tkachuk, really.
Even a year longer if you count the year he spent overseas. He was already playing against men as a 17-year-old.
There you go.
Yeah, that's one Bergevin would like to have back. Especially you look at a ish disturber already when you have Brendan Gallagher out there. Imagine those 2 mutants on the same line. Sens really dodged a bullet there because Brady is the ultimate guy, and I know it's cliche, but that you hate to play against, love to have on your team. So, oh man, just thank your lucky stars that Marc Bergevin was leaning in a different direction that day, because Montreal is spending a ton of money in their scouting staff, and they just straight up missed on that one.
They did.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the exact same situation as Brad Marchand. They play different games, but exact same. You don't want to play against him ever, but you always want that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I could talk about Brady Tkachuk all day if I wanted to, but
so could I.
I guess we get into the
second goal. Yeah,
the second goal. Well, the third one, Brandstrom, first career. First career goal for Eric Brandstrom.
Love to see it.
There we go.
The time is nigh. Yeah, I love to see him get the puck at the point and just fire it on net. He did it a lot tonight. He had 5 shots tonight, which is great from Eric Brandstrom, who, let me see, he didn't play a lot of time tonight.
I got 12 minutes.
Yeah, 12 minutes.
Yikes.
And he had 5 shots and looked great. He was a -2.
That one was tough. Holy, put him outside. And that's just where your size, and you're going to have to be that much stronger than everybody else when you're under 6 feet as a defenseman. So, hey, he's still 21 years old. He'll grow into it. The player comparable I keep giving for Brandstrom, and some people hate it, but Mark Streit, and that's not to say that Mark Streit didn't have a great career. He put up over 60 points twice. But I think it's a way to temper the offense, the expectation in terms of how dynamic he can be. But like I said, Streit was like a 40, 50-point defenseman for 7 or 8 years. He had that ability to put up points, but it doesn't have to always be the dynamic offense. And one thing that I love about Brandstrom is he changes the angle on his shots because he knows he doesn't have necessarily the hardest shot, and they just always seem to get through. I worked in Belleville the last 2 years, and specifically last year when we got to see Brandstrom a whole lot more. Just the composure he has walking the blue line. It's much like Christian Wolanin, but he does it in a more successful way in terms of stick handling and facilitating while he's doing it. He can multitask by kind of drawing up where he sees the play going as he is in the process of moving on the line. I find that shifts the PK, and that's one of the reasons I think why this power play is successful tonight.
Yeah, we've talked about an elite power play, and like they mentioned in the first intermission, part of the eliteness, I guess, is the big teams in the NHL, and I'm thinking Toronto and Edmonton. They keep that top unit out there all night or the whole 2 minutes, and and the Sens did that for a long time, but then they end up having like 5+ minutes of power play time almost, right? Or 4, I don't know what it was, 4.5. So the second unit's got to get out there, and Brandstrom had less than a minute of power play time tonight, and he scored a goal. Yeah. So, I mean, if Chabot is going to stay at that top unit full time, which I think he should, he wasn't bad on the power play by any means tonight. I think that if you can get Brandstrom on that second unit, regardless every time, and he steps out there and he's a threat, because how many teams can say that their second unit is just as threatening as their loaded up top unit? You know? Yeah. And I think that's an encouraging thing about the power play, regardless of how much they score and where they are in the league standings.
Okay, so I don't want to get too morbid, because I know Derek Stepan got hurt, and we hope that he's doing well. But the fact that Derek Stepan and Artem Anisimov were unable to be on the power play, I think, was addition by subtraction from a sense. We got to see Nick Paul a little bit, I think, out there, and just a different look from that sense, I think, benefited the team here too.
It was Connor
Yeah.
Brown.
Connor Brown got some time. Nice.
And it
No
wasn't just in
breakaways on
front
the
of the
power
net.
play.
Yeah, it wasn't just in front of the net too. He was like on the half wall.
Nice.
Yeah, he was.
You know, he's not a threat to shoot over there. He's not a threat to shoot on a breakaway. So, you know, you're not worried about Connor Brown scoring from there, but he's really good at controlling the puck. Him and Nick Paul both are really good at protecting it. So that's not a bad thing having him out there either. But I agree with you. Yeah. I guess we kind of skipped over the step-on injury that happened in the first, but
yeah, even after seeing the replay, I'm not even sure what happened. He just kind of must have leaned on his stick the wrong way or something after he was holding his shoulder. Because there was no contact anywhere really. But then he skated off the ice holding his shoulder real slow. So I'm not quite sure. It looked like he was in a lot of pain, and they said he was out for the game indefinitely. So we'll kind of wait in here and see what's on that.
Didn't look good.
No.
How much pain he looked like he was in. And the only reason I'm worried about him being out is that Stützle and Batherson were starting to get good chemistry with him. And Stepan had that great pass to Batherson for his goal.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know how many points he has this year, Stepan. Not many. And that
was
probably
his
his
fifth
first
assist. So
okay, so not a ton, but I don't think Tierney is as suited for that role as Tierney had a tough night. I'm just looking at his numbers right now, but
yeah, he did.
Hopefully Stepan's okay, and not selfishly I'm thinking about trade deadline bait, but if it's a long-term injury, that could just be a flushed away second round pick that Dorion used to trade for him.
Yeah, for sure. And like, there's a comment here saying, should we trade Stepan while he's worth something?
Worth what?
While we're on the topic of what was that, Ross?
Worth what?
Well, yeah, fair enough. I think right now he's worth as much as he's going to be, but the injury obviously might damper that a little bit. But in reality, he's not going to be worth a whole lot to many teams. There might be a team out there that might pay a third. I wouldn't expect a second back, but maybe a third and like a C level prospect. But
I think he was starting to play to some value a little bit, and playing between Batherson and Stützle is going to help that. But I mean, this is a tough time because 5 games he was playing really well, and that's probably about it. So I'm not sure what deadline team would want him, and then I guess like this injury could end his season. We don't know. That serious. So we'll wait to hear about that tomorrow, I'm assuming. Probably the only sad part about tonight, I'd say.
Yeah, for the most part, I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Other than a couple floppy goals that Murray let in, I would say overall, I was pretty pleased with everyone tonight.
Yeah, I had a moment during this game. I think it was during the second period. I think I tweeted it out after the second period. But like, how great's hockey? How do we go 310 days without any of this? Like, just the electricity and you know what it is, guys. And it's not something that's happened often. Today was the 5th time in 21 games. Scoring the first goal, isn't that great? Getting out to a little bit of a lead and not chasing the game, especially once you made it 2-0 early. And I've been betting a prop on Bet Online that Drake Batherson would score 3 or more points. I basically done it every game, and he had 2 in the first 10 minutes. I was getting tweets left, right, and saying this is your time, and then of course, hey, I'll take the win over Drake getting 3 points. But just playing with the lead, there's something about it where it just makes it so much more fun to watch and less tense. So I thought that all in all, that's a nice little bonus to this first win they've gotten all year when they score first 2. They were 0-3-1, I think, before that. Pretty wild stat. And
it's not just playing with the lead; it's getting a goal within the first 2 minutes of the game. Which is
momentum goals, man.
It's happened a lot against them this season, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that was awesome to see. But yeah, the broadcast doesn't hesitate to point that out when they score first. Like, all 5 of their wins had come when the other team scored first. So
we always talk about on the show, we talk about momentum goals being the first 2 minutes, the last 2 minutes, and the 2 minutes following a goal. And you're right, Jack. That's been happening a lot against Ottawa. So it was great to see it go the other way tonight.
Yeah. But bounces on our side, luck on our side, whatever. We played a good game tonight. Mm-hmm. So I can't really complain a whole lot.
I mean, so both wins against Montreal in extra time. So, the Sens aren't in a standings race, but ideally in a divisional season like this, those aren't great points to be giving away. But in the first game on Sunday, I'd say that they got, the first 2 goals that they got in regulation, like very much so the bounces were going their way. Pretty fluky goals. But tonight, I mean, all their goals, I'd say were pretty well earned. And, like 2 off the rush for Kachuk that just kind of squeaked through, I guess. But then Batherson, beautiful goal, and then Brandstrom too. So they definitely earned it tonight.
Hey, how about Josh Norris using Stützle's stick on the assist?
Yes.
He dropped his earlier in the shift and just goes to the bench, says, "Hey, Roomy, pass me yours." And that tape job is just so awful; it stands out like a sore thumb. But hey, it works for him. I never want to see him change it.
I Josh Norris might be my favorite player on this team now to watch. He's so responsible defensively.
Plays with so much pace too.
Really, honestly, and he's more physical than I think he gets credit for. And I don't know if you guys follow him. I can't even pronounce his last name. It's Dom at The Athletic. He was tweeting out, and I was early, so I got a reply in, and I said, "You watching Norris this season? Because he gets a Calder vote." And I'm trying to pump Josh Norris's tires a little bit. And he said he has a piece coming out tomorrow, and Norris is pretty high up on it or something. So that's
cool.
Be interested to read that. But I think, as good as Stützle's been, he's been pretty streaky, and I guess his underlying numbers aren't fantastic. So, but Norris, I would be shocked if his aren't good at the very least.
Man, how about earlier in the season? And fair enough. I think it was the first 3 games. He just got, I'm talking about Josh Norris, out-muscled on faceoffs. And to compare it back to Stützle, you mentioned how it's like a young guy. You don't want to play him in the middle of the ice, but they kept with it for Norris. And now this guy's snapping him back at a high clip. I'm just pulling it up right now. On the season, he's at 52.6%, but that's even higher if you go for the last few games. It's just been awesome to watch. Like 8 for 12 in the last game against Montreal. Don't have the one from tonight right in front of me, but he's been well over 50%. 12 for 16. Well, there you go. So
75% tonight.
That's just it. Thanks. That really proves my point even more because, in the last 10 to 12 games, he's just been awesome in the faceoff circle. Again, getting possession is so huge. And, man, you just love to see the growth of these guys. The 3 players in the shootout tonight, 21, 19, and 21 years old. That's just unreal.
Yeah. So we love to focus on faceoffs on this show. And
nice.
Because they're very important. And night after night, Norris is above 50%.
Yeah, and you couldn't say that at the start of the season.
No, not at all. And as a rookie, that's just so impressive. I remember McDavid, the biggest thing, or like in his first couple seasons, it was that he couldn't win a faceoff or something to save his life.
Yeah.
And then he worked on it. But the fact that Norris is a rookie in the league and doing that right now. Speaking of faceoffs, Chris Tierney, who when we started doing the show, he had, I think, 3 or 4 consecutive games with 33%.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was brutal. Tonight he's under 50, but, won 7, lost 8. Yeah. Not a great night on the draws for the Sens.
Until you look at Nick Paul, he went 62.5% on 16 faceoffs.
Yes.
I don't even think I noticed Nick Paul take 4 faceoffs, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and White took a lot, which is weird since they're on the same line. But White's face did not help the team in the circle tonight at all.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So real quick, want to jump back to us giving the extra point to Montreal. Let's talk about Montreal giving us some points. The end of that game, what do you guys think about that call?
Ross, I'll let you go first.
Well, I have to play it from the goalie's perspective, but let's run through it. 6 seconds on the clock, plays out in the top of the umbrella, wherever it is, and you're looking at Brendan Gallagher, a guy who's pretty familiar with that blue paint. He comes in behind, and is he helped in a little bit by number 44? Maybe, but he does make contact. That's clear. Where I see the problem from a Habs perspective is there's 2.5 seconds after that where Murray does have an ability to get back into at least being square to the puck. Now, was he still in his stance? No, but he was facing the puck, and that's why I was nervous during the review because it seemed like if he had been facing the other way, then it's a clear no goal. But the second that he's directly facing the puck, I'm surprised that wasn't a goal, but you just love it. Brendan Gallagher, saltiest guy on earth, says it ruined the product of the game. Well, I would beg to differ because then the world would have been robbed of those Timmy Stützle dangles in the shootout. So you know what, Brendan, you're going to have to chew on that one and just do better next time. Maybe don't touch the goalie at all, and then you don't have to worry about it because let's be honest, that that bomb from the point might have been going in anyways.
Is that the quote that he had after the game?
Gallagher just a couple minutes ago. Our pundit too. Getting that one out. Ruin the product. And we've already got a retweet. Chris Hoffley, a great follow. I think he runs the social media for OSEG. Just said he said that's me when McDonald's talks about how much trans fat they use in their fries, or when they don't use it. He goes, yeah, it ruins the product for sure. But hey, too bad, Brendan. You're going to have to chew on that one until the next time these two meet. And it won't be long. 3 games against Calgary, and then a quick trip to Montreal for 1 before heading out west.
Yeah. So I thought that, the broadcast, Gord Miller and Jamie McLennan, they were both very, not very clear, but they thought that it was close enough, but that it should be a goal for Montreal. Now,
especially hearing Noodle say that, because he's a self-proclaimed goalie hugger.
He kept saying it. He said, I'm a goalie hugger, but that looks like a good goal. So Murray definitely had time to set up, and I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt saying that he knew he shouldn't set up because he was run into, because he's generally pretty slow. So what I will say though is that McLennan also pointed this out, that the tie usually should go to the goalie. I don't know if that's actually the rule, and I don't know if you can get as close to it. Yeah, I don't know how close to a tie this was, but there was contact. It was in the crease, and whatever way you spin it, that's not legal.
Yeah, so, the way I look at it, black and white, that was goalie interference. But if you look in the gray area, it wasn't really goalie interference. So there was goalie interference, but he did have time to get set up. But that's not you can't really judge how fast it takes him to do this, because the facts are that he was interfered with.
The problem with me though is that with this whole goalie interference issue is, if the ref sees that at in real time, that's a penalty, right? A player gets called for running into the goalie regardless of if there's a goal or not. So it's when you're reviewing it and you see contact, but you're deeming he had time to set up. It's weird that they can't just call a penalty, right? Because that should be the basis of it. So if there's contact at all in the blue paint, that should be a penalty. But I mean, I don't exactly know the rules. Ottawa hasn't really had many questionable goalie interference plays in the last few years, I guess, other than this one. I can't really think of many. But then again, they haven't played meaningful games where we really care about what the calls are. But if it was the other way around, I would obviously be frustrated. But man, that's a Habs team that was like the Sens at the beginning of this season. So being that close to having 2 points and only getting away with a shootout loss, that's got to sting.
Yeah. Hey, only 1 win in their last 6 games now, too. So talk about a free fall for a team that was really in the running with Toronto at the top of this division for the first dozen games. And now that seems like just a pipe dream a mile away. And I don't see it getting any better. Think about Montreal's trajectory. This is a team that missed the playoffs 3 of 4 years. And in the one that they did, yeah, sure, give them credit in 2017. They did okay against the Rangers. It would have been nice, actually, to get an Ottawa-Montreal second round. Didn't happen, but in this past playoffs, they only got in because Pittsburgh fell asleep through that play-in round, and I think it might have switched up the expectations there. They added Toffoli and Anderson, 2 of their most noticeable players, again tonight, and have accounted for 22 goals now on the season after they each scored. Or did Anderson get one? No, he didn't. So they've accounted for 19 goals this year. And you're like, man, where would the offense be if those guys weren't in the lineup?
Yeah, because, really though.
Man, I think this Habs team is a little overestimated. And maybe you turn that around if they can get some better goaltending, they can get back in track. You're like, at what point does that become an issue? Because, I mean, this isn't just an isolated incident that Jake Allen's had a better game. And Carey Price was good tonight, but you look at the stinkers, and they're up a goal in the third period. You can't let that second Brady goal in. That was a backhand off the rush that had absolutely no juice on it, 5-hole.
I think the big thing with Murray this season, flipping it to the Sens goalie, has been timely saves. And tonight he had timely saves.
Yeah.
Save percentage under 900, but he made great saves when he needed to. Once it was a 4-4 game, he was rock solid.
Yeah.
The thing with the Habs, I remember watching them. I want to say they were playing Vancouver, and I was just tuning into them because it was the Sens weren't playing, and it was right before Ottawa was about to go to Montreal. So I'm thinking, because it was right after the Edmonton stretch for the Sens, and I was thinking, okay, what are we getting ourselves into here? Top team in the division, losing streak's going to continue. I remember watching, I was thinking, like, this team is really good. Like, they were just clicking. All 4 lines were rolling. Goaltending looks solid. And I think their back end, to me, is still, like, one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
Or at least, I think by far the best in this division. They got the size and they're mobile. So I don't understand what's happened. Like, it has to be something with the coaching. You know what I mean? Those first 2 periods, until Drouin's goal, to be honest, they looked lifeless, which isn't. And even as the Sens were going through their struggles this season, you can't even say that about the Sens. They didn't look lifeless at times. They were lively. They looked like they were having fun at practice and stuff. I just can't figure out what's going on with them. And I mean, their record is 9-5-4 now, and that's, take overtime losses as real losses. That's a 500 record. For a team that was in the running for best team in the division, not like 2 weeks ago, it felt like.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. I don't want to get into our 3 stars here, but I did see a tweet today that's like, at what point, how many coaches does Marc Bergevin have to go through before it's an ownership issue instead of a coaching issue? I just kind of really thought about that, because there has been quite a few coaches that have gone in and out of Montreal under Bergevin. Claude Julien's a great coach, but I don't know.
Well, just quickly too, like Ross mentioned, Anderson and Gallagher, and Toffoli have, I don't know what percentage of their offense that is, but that's crazy for 2. It's a ton for 2 players that he brought in the offseason. I feel like this isn't completely on Bergevin. I think he's kind of flipped the script in the last couple seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
And he had a great offseason. And I mean, Jake Allen as well, right? And how great has he been? So yeah, I don't know what's going on, but good thing I'm not a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, because I don't really care.
Hey, just like I know Brandon said this, we had in our Sens Central Citizen segment on Locked On Senators on Saturday, we had Spencer Blake, and he was mentioning how he grew up in the Kitchener area, and he's like, it was great to not be a Toronto fan. And Pillsy just sits back, he goes, every day is a great day not to be a Toronto. Same thing for the Habs. I think the Habs are a much more hated team. At least I'd probably power rank them Pittsburgh 1, just because of so many playoff disappointments, not only 2017, 2013, 2008, 2010. It's just tough times against the Penguins. They're number 1. And then to me, it's the Habs over the Leafs as well. I just absolutely can't stand them. And I find in the CTC, those are the worst nights as well, when the Habs fans get going. So it was fun there for a couple of years, because you knew the Pajot chants were going to come out on the other side of it. But still, definitely power rankings, the Habs are above the Leafs. What about you guys? Same thing?
Yeah, 100%. I don't like them.
I'd say the same, except I mean, my friend group anyways, I've got a couple Leafs friends, but I don't have any Habs fan friends. So I don't get that perspective, but I do understand. I'd still rank them ahead of the Leafs, just because, the past decade it's been Sens.
The 2 playoff series help as well. And hey,
100%.
You know what? Anyone who tells you that the goal at the end should have counted, let's rewind the tape in 2015 on that quick whistle. Pajot's got a wide open net. It's a 1-0 final score. Forever they are in debt. So you know what? That's just the officials paying it back. So
Well, if I was a Habs fan, I'd flip the script and go to 2013 with the Zibanejad kick-in goal.
Yeah, well, we don't need to talk about that one. That series was a lot more lopsided either way, right? With the game 3 is 6-1, and then they won game 5, 5-1. That's probably my favorite playoff series.
I was just gonna say, I'll never forget that one. I was 12 years old. I will never.
Oh yeah, I had aisle seats. I would have been grade 12. I was probably like 18, 19. And running up and down the aisle on that line, bro, just having the best time of my life. We had Matt Cassian on our podcast. And he said, you know how they called Paul McLean a bug-eyed walrus?
Brandon Prust,
Yeah, so Matt Cassian told us, because you can see in the 5-on-5 line, bro, we're way off. But anytime we're talking about beating up the Habs, it's all good. There was a part of the line brawl where Matt Cassian is just on top of Colby Armstrong, and he told us in that moment, he said, I want to squeeze your bug eyes out of your head. So it was just hilarious, going back to just the animosity that happens when these two teams meet. And I also tweeted this out at Sens Central, I'm pretty sure Brady Tkachuk hates the Habs as much as we do. Yes. And that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So a couple quick things before 3 stars. So the Matt Cassian thing made me think we didn't even really bring up Michael Haley tonight. So
the factor.
2-0 in the lineup. Thing is, I had no problem with it when he was in the lineup when you could just kind of roll 10 other or 11 other forwards. But when Stepan goes down, he's forced to play a couple other minutes. I'm sure Michael Haley's not going to listen to this, and even if he is, he knows I mean nothing. He is quite useless out there. Can't really skate. Made some nice hits. Him and Watson had a couple shifts, but I mean, that's when it comes to bite them in the ass, I guess. And that was unfortunate. That Stepan went down. He was forced to play a couple other minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if this is full send sicko mode, but if I want an enforcer in the lineup, I'd like him to be like 6'5", 240 and just a complete mutant. Michael Haley, he's tough. Nobody's taking this toughness away from him, but he's like 5'10". He's not an imposing figure.
You want a Matt Cassian.
You want a Matt Cassian, exactly. Milan Lucic, a guy who is physically intimidating, and just looking at him in warm-up. Brian McGrattan, to bring it back to Sens land. Like the Sens in the past have had these type of players. But to me, Michael Haley is more of a Chris Neal build. But the thing with Neal is he could play 10, 12 minutes. Michael Haley can't do that.
No. So this is definitely, probably the end of the line for Haley. I'm not sure how many more games he'll get in. Maybe when they play the Habs again. But I agree. He's not – you think of that Habs blue line, they're huge, right? Like none of them are going to shy away from Michael Haley. So
And not only that, but he can't really do any damage on the forecheck.
Yeah,
I keep going back to in the game 1, but this is before Sherrod had answered the bell for his Stützle antics the last series these two teams played. But there was a shift where Sherrod just chipped it off out the glass. And if it's Chris Neal, he's running Sherrod through the boards. Yep. And I just thought Haley let him off the hook. And to me, that's exactly what his role is on the team. Yeah. So do it. But he just can't complete it. But you're right. The Habs have a lot of big men on the back end, and they're not easy to roll over, but maybe this isn't an easy role for Michael Haley to play on Ottawa.
Yeah. All right. So, real quick, we'll run through our 3 stars. So we'll start with you, Ross. Who are your 3 stars of the night?
All right. Well, I'll start. My 3rd star is Drake Batherson. Just the start he got off to in this game. Fantastic stuff. We already talked about his two-way play, how he can get up and down the ice defensively, offensively. It doesn't matter. He's a guy you want all the time. Before the shootout, he would have been my first shooter. I've seen it happen in Belleville so many times. He had the breakaway in overtime the other game, and that's his move, man. He pulls it back and then goes back in and tries to put it upstairs. So I would have had the shootout. That's just my opinion. But all in all, I still thought it was a fantastic game. So he's my 3rd star. Honestly, I thought about putting Carey Price in the mix here because he kept that Habs team in the game through the middle of it. But once that 4th goal went in, it was complete. Like you went from 0 to 0 type move. So he goes way off the list. And to me, I gotta give some love to Shea Weber. He was kind of a mammoth out there. He scores the 2 goals, but defensively, I thought he was fantastic as well. So Shea Weber, the Weber bomb, beating Murray twice. No doubt that we talked about Marc Bergevin and kind of making some good and some bad moves. Ultimately, that still looks like a fantastic move, and people tipped him from that at the time. So I'm going to give Weber some love there at number 2. And then number 1, the franchise, Brady Tkachuk. Like these are the games he comes to play. He was my locked-on player we do before every game, and he just lives up to the hype. He had that scrap. He had another, 6 shots, 5 hits. That's just like your typical everyday Brady Tkachuk stat line. And that's what's so incredible about him is the consistency. And you got to give him that extra love because he lost a couple chicklets as well tonight. So I just thought, all in all, that was a captain performance from Brady Tkachuk against a rival that he needed to step up. And don't look now, but with the Flames reeling, like Ottawa, I'm not saying they're anywhere close to being 5th or even 4th and getting into the playoff push, but they are making it extra hard on these teams. And if they can win 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 5 coming up, I should say, against Calgary, and maybe you mix in another win against Montreal, all of a sudden you're looking at a really respectable team, no matter where they are in terms of numerically in the standings. So number 1, Brady Tkachuk, number 2, Shea Weber, and number 3, Drake Batherson.
Fair enough.
All right. I'm going to go all 3 Senators here. So I'm going to go Josh Norris at number 3. Just I love the way he plays, and I think he's had a lot more confidence than he did. I want to say a week and a half ago, he was getting about 13 minutes a night. He's up to, almost 20 tonight. I think he looks great. That move in the shootout, I think his shot is very underrated. He got 30 goals last year in Belleville in his first pro season.
Yeah.
I want him to have more opportunity to shoot the puck, but he's so I watch him every time he's on the ice. So good in his defensive zone. Just always low supporting. The way he moves his feet too, he can get up in the rush quickly. He had a great game tonight. And then on the second star.
Before you move on, I just want to build off what you said there. Josh Norris, 1946. That's a career high from him by almost 2 minutes.
Wow.
And his next highest game, you guessed it, the last game against the Habs on Sunday night. So he just played the most minutes back-to-back games, and you're right, he's lived up for it. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
He doesn't even look like a rookie half the time. He looks like he's been there for years, right? I could get used to watching this guy play for years. And then second, I'll go Drake Batherson. Just that first period, he was just all over the place, just making plays. The power play, he was running it. He's starting to run through Drake Batherson on the right flank there instead of Chabot up top or anyone else. So he controls the play so well, and he did that tonight. A beautiful goal too, right off the bat. We didn't really talk about how nice that was. He just forehand, backhand, right over Price. That was great. And then I gotta go Brady Tkachuk with my first star again. I could talk about this guy all night. I think you hit it right on the point, Ross. He's that was a captain performance, and he gets up for these rivalry games, which is exciting. Moving forward, that's what you want on your team. I love watching the Battle of Alberta because Matthew Tkachuk is always right in the Oilers' grill. And it's kind of the same situation for him because the Oilers could have drafted Matthew Tkachuk and the Habs could have drafted Brady Tkachuk, and they're haunting them as their team's biggest rivals. So I just wanted to give a quick honorable mention, though. I thought this was Eric Branson's best game this season by far. And I say that because didn't really notice him other than when he drew that penalty. Or those 2 penalties, I guess. Big man going down, getting hit from behind. So that's what you want from a good Branson.
Too. And what? He just got under Josh Anderson's skin. Simple as that.
Yeah,
100%.
Clean stuff. So a great game from good Branson. That's what they need from him all year.
Yeah. And my list is going to be very similar. I'm going to start from the top because it's the same as yours. Brady Tkachuk, you guys already said it. We've already said it. He's, captain, my captain. Welcome home. And then next I've got Drake Batherson. Just excellent all-around game. Been saying it for the last 5 games now. He's just getting better and better every game. And then my third star, I'm going to go Nick Paul. He didn't show up on the scoreboard tonight, but he was everywhere. And I say this about him every night. Always on the attack on the penalty kill on that second unit. I feel like every game there's at least one spot that he's in the offensive corner just with the puck. And at one point there were 4 Montreal Canadiens players on him while everybody else changed.
PK looked great tonight.
It did, 100%.
I guess either, but they look great. Nick Paul protects the puck so well. And I think every time he looks like he's going to lose it, and then he just gains possession and he just pivots so quickly. He clearly worked on his footwork this offseason. It's great to see. I love watching Nick Paul.
Yeah, 100%. So next we can go to who needs to be better. We'll start with you, Ross.
Oh, I don't have too many guys on this list tonight. Especially after a win, I don't want to throw the best player on the team under the bus, but we already talked about this. This wasn't Chabot's best game by any stretch. So for me, he was probably the only guy who really you're looking at. You're like, could we get a little more out of you? Knowing that there is more, obviously, Michael Haley, but he is what he is. You're not expecting more. So I guess Thomas Chabot's probably my guy, and I say that hesitantly because I know that he's probably not 100% in terms of health, and they still got the W, and he still got his name on the score sheet. I believe he assisted on one of the goals. Yeah, he assisted on Brady's second goal of the game. So when you're looking at a guy who I'm saying has to be better, but he played 29 minutes coming off a stretch without playing for 2 games, I'm kind of shaking my own head at that. But honestly, you have him. I think one of you guys mentioned Chris Tierney as well, being a -3, doesn't look fantastic, under 50% in the circle. He could have been better, but at the same time, we just finished talking about how successful that penalty kill unit was, and he's a big part of that. So, all in all, I guess my answer will be Thomas Chabot, but I say that almost tongue-in-cheek because he was still the workhorse that we expect him to be.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't have anyone other than Chabot and Tierney, I guess. So I'm going to use this as another honorable mention. We're going to give more love to Nikita Zaitsev.
Yeah.
Because 23 minutes tonight, and again,
looks good for them.
Again, didn't notice him, which is more than you can say for him also for the rest of his career. And I keep seeing people, the expansion draft is coming up, and there's a debate, I guess, now, or do you protect Nikita Zaitsev or do you not? And I don't really think it's a big deal to leave him exposed. I don't think that contract's getting picked up, but there's still a lot of runway left in this season. If he keeps it up, and you're a team like Seattle that kind of needs to get to the cap floor right away, I don't know why they wouldn't. What's wrong with taking on Nikita Zaitsev? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe the term, but at the same time, man, I was even thinking during the game tonight, I was like, you know what, like, he's fine. Like, I don't think I don't think it's a terrible contract. Even I think
not at all.
I think you look at him, he's still 28, 29 years old. You're gonna play him till he's 32. I mean, he's settling in nicely. He's not making the terrible giveaway that he was prone to last year, and that's honestly big enough. As long as he can play the role where he's getting the puck to his partner and being responsible at the offensive blue line, I think that he has a spot on this team. I wouldn't mind if he's back next year, honestly.
The only problem I would see with letting him go is we saw this with the last expansion draft, which feels like a million years ago, but that was the beginning of the rebuild pretty much because
no doubt.
Mark Mathot was picked up by the Vegas because he was left exposed, and that was the partner to Erik Karlsson. So Zaitsev's been playing with Chabot all season. I'd be a little bit hesitant to expose Zaitsev knowing that Chabot's getting comfortable with him. Because I think they've looked great together. So I don't know. I mean, that's not a concern right now for Dorion. One more thing about Dorion. Do you guys notice that he went right down to the glass for overtime?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like you wanted to throw a hat out if Brady got his third.
So funny.
One thing I did want to mention about Zaitsev, I don't think I could imagine that right side without him right now. Like, we would be underwater without Zaitsev on that right side. Like, we have nothing else really.
Yeah, you have Josh Brown or Braden Coburn back in the lineup, so no thank you on that one. I think that Zaitsev has definitely earned his role, and now with him and Zub, you have 2 out of your 3 next year. And I mean, I still would like to see the franchise move over and play the right
I would
side,
as well.
but hey, Bruce Garriock mentioned in question period tonight, there's a little bit of interest, and there might be a trade with Erica Branson. I think that he's your typical, especially in a COVID universe, that there's going to be situations where you need to grow into your depth. And we saw, Pittsburgh in 2017 is a perfect example. How many defensemen did they use? I think he's the perfect guy where the Sens eat half that cap hit, and a team picks him up for a $2 million cap. The Sens pay him 1.5 because he's making $1 million less than his cap hit is this year. And I think that once you move on from him, but is it a situation where then JBD gets a look towards the end of the season? We're always quick to mention on Locked On Senators that the NCAA finals is 2 days before the trade deadline.
I was just going to say
exactly.
You've got the quarantine involved afterwards, but I think that's a pretty good moniker for what we could expect to see. And Shane Pinto is another guy that Garriock mentioned in question period as well. I think those two could slot right in to the NHL. But how interesting, we saw the Belleville full schedule, 36 games. 32 left. They've already played the 4, but 36 game schedule. 13 of those would be after not only the NCAA tournament, but then the 14-day quarantine. So usually you see guys come up for like the last 3-4 games. So to get a dozen would be basically half their NCAA. That'd be wild.
Yeah, a dozen and playoffs if
those guys
are a little bit.
Push. Especially if Sanderson's involved. I don't know where that stands. He just seems to be getting better every game. So to me, whatever happens with Sanderson, I'd be cool if he goes back as a sophomore year. Are you guys in a rush to get him to Ottawa, or would you be happy if he goes back for one more year?
I'm on board for having him in Ottawa. I'm pretty indifferent, really. I can see a lot of benefits to leaving him in Nodak. But
right now he's playing on the second pair too, right? He's playing well,
Yeah.
but he's playing behind Kierstad and JBD. So
yeah,
give him another year, and those two guys have moved on. And I don't know. I might be a little biased because it might be moving out to Winnipeg next year. And if that's the case, I will be doing a couple of road trips down to Grand Forks.
Yeah.
No
of course.
question about that. But no, all in all, I think that you can't go wrong with Jake Sanderson because the hockey IQ's there. But talking about getting way off track, we're talking about JBD, talking about the right side of the blue line, talking about Branson, and in turn talking about Zaitsev. But hey, there's just so much fluctuation that can happen over the next year or two. And hey, great point by Sens Updates. I'm assuming this is the same guy who on Twitter posted that Stutz like a Chuck thing that blew up. He even got on Chicklets with that. But yeah, youngest player in franchise history to 50 goals. Like, how about that? And the day after, his brother did 100 goals. That's awesome.
Yeah, very ironic.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about when they win. A lot of stuff to mention, which is
100%.
I mean,
what's hilarious, Locked On Senators is supposed to, like our network said, it's supposed to be like a 25-30 minute show. If you scroll through, it's like today's was an hour and 5 minutes. Like,
we're kind of the same.
You can't do it, man.
Our editor Riley, I always talk to him and I say, I just messaged him. I said, I'm so sorry, and he's like, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more than we can say. We did how many, Jacob? How many we do with these when it was? I think it was 8 straight losses. We did that whole losing streak. We started from the first game all the way to the end, and when they start winning, it's a lot more fun to talk about.
No doubt. But hey, how about having to get through the mud to appreciate the highs a little bit more?
Yes, exactly.
It's just that much. And what's crazy is that Sens Twitter is as electric as ever, and you think at the same time like, oh, maybe we're in a pandemic, people are at home a little bit more or whatnot, but the engagement rate of Sens fans is tops in the league, and you got when they are successful. How much of that do you think, guys, is that our generation is the first one that got to grow up with the Ottawa Senators, right? There's that fresh enthusiasm. Like, I know myself, I was born in 92, a month before the Sens played their first game. So my first memories are when they started getting good. But at the same time, I just feel like there's such a young, vibrant fan base of this team and so much passion. And it's not only in Ottawa. I mean, I'm in the heart of enemy territory. I'm staring at the CN Tower right now. And I just feel like it, and I feel like Jack, you're in London, aren't you? And and Jacob, you're out in Nova Scotia, am I right? So I mean, man, this team's got a fan base that expands way further than just the 613 area code, and it's just a hell of a party, and it's going to be that much better. We end off every Sens Central citizen after we're done recording by just saying, man, we can't wait to have a beer with you at the CTC when all this is over. And I just feel like the enthusiasm is there. They just want to cheer for a winner, and it's coming, man. The young talent. Like, I'm watching the game with my girlfriend tonight, and like she's just starting to follow the Sens a little bit, but she's laughing. She's like, "Man, this team is like pretty talented, eh?"
Exact same boat here,
but they're pretty good. Yeah, there's tons of skill on this team coming up for sure. Lots to be excited for.
So it's easy to you talk about the young fans and being attached to this team. I moved to Ottawa when I was really young, but the next summer was when they had that run to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I'm kind of like a good, I guess, like a second generation Sens fan, I guess, and we kind of just started cheering for the hometown team, and now here I am. But the thing too is when they trade away the Carlson, the Stone, and all that, it's hard to build that back up. With household names, but you're looking at Brady Tkachuk starting to do that. Thomas Chabot's done that. And, Tim Stützle is the next one. And I'm kind of the same. My girlfriend never watched hockey, started watching this season, and she saw Stützle's first goal. And now she's just
from
like,
the heavens, man.
Yeah, she's like, how is Tim doing? Does he look good or whatever? So it's good to see. It's regardless of their record and how much worse they are this year record-wise, it's fun to have a team that's actually competitive, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I just got a message on Instagram from Joey DeCord, and not to name drop, but he messaged me one time. I just hit him back right now because when he came on in the summer, he mentioned the Branchise nickname to us.
Yeah.
All the boys call Eric Brancham. So when he scored, I just DM'd him back. I said, the Branchise with the money sign. He goes, what a stud, the first of many. So you heard it from Joey Dax. That's not a one and done situation from Eric Branstrom. That's unreal. That kid's going to be a stud. It just speaks to what we're talking about with the young talent on the horizon right now. And you look, it's like this is the first wave that's here with Branstrom, Tkachuk, Norris, Batherson. the second wave's coming, man, and a lot of them are coming from Nodak, but there's that first round pick this year too that's looming.
Yeah.
And, they're building something special here now. I sigh before I say it because the longer it takes, the more guys are going to need to get paid above their entry level and bridge contracts. But hey, enjoy it for what it is right now because there's so much excitement.
So
100%.
We're going here. Sorry, Riley. I got a question, Ross. How much would you pay Tkachuk per season?
It's a disgusting number for sure, but it depends what negotiations get to. Like my first offer to him is 7x7. I say like, well, let's do that. Let's give you 1 year off of what the maximum would be, and that way you'll be paid as you should be at 28, where you're in the prime of your career. You're in UFA. You're buying up, I think, 3 UFA years if you're getting him at a 7-year deal. So I think that's my first offer, but. If he's willing to sign for 8 years, I probably up that to 8 on my first offer. But if they sign him, as long as it's single digit, you won't see an argument from me. If it's 8 years at 9.9, sure.
I tweeted the exact same thing out today, and I think it was Derek Lee that tweeted it. I might be wrong about that, but I replied and I said, if it's a 7 or 8 year deal, as long as it doesn't hit 10 million, great.
Nice, yeah. I'm the same way for that one as well. You look at some of the comparables around the league, like how about 9 million? You look at Jamie Benn, you look at Mark Stone, those kind of guys, and then they come back and go, yeah, they're playing in tax-free states and Texas. So you're gonna have to pay him. And Keith Tkachuk made a career and went from team to team and was captain of multiple teams. He knows that his reputation is going to go wherever he goes. So. I don't think that he feels that obligated to sign for that long. So if they do, you're going to have to offer him market value. And who else to build around than Brady Tkachuk? Like, so, I can't think of a more perfect guy.
The funny thing that you say comparables, I'm trying to think of the best comparable in terms of what he brings. And honestly, his brother is probably the closest thing. And so that's what makes me nervous.
And now we're talking about a situation where is he on the move in the next year?
Yeah. I think the Flames would be nuts if they moved him in any sort of retool rebuild.
They have to move Goudreau before they move Tkachuk.
Since we're here, is our first this year, even if it's unless either Beniers or Johnson comes into top 3 and our pick is top 3, would you trade that pick for Matthew?
I would trade it even if those guys are available. If it's straight up 1-for-1, there's no question. Ottawa's in that point of their rebuild, and you look, and what's kind of cool is that you can almost make the argument that Jake Sanderson is their next year first-round pick because you don't see him right away.
Yeah.
Right? So you have Stützle enter the lineup this year, and then Jake Sanderson next year, and just pretend that that's the situation, because what Matthew would bring to this team right away would just be absolutely absurd. It would be absurd. And I almost hesitate to get into it just because, well, Matthew's contract's up after next year and his salary's $9 million. So that's what you're looking at as a qualifying offer would start at. And then what? You're signing Brady and Matthew for $9 million each. And all of a sudden you're looking like you're a little top heavy. You go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly in that situation. But just for entertainment value, and let's be honest, it's a gate-driven league. And if the Ottawa Senators, before fans could be allowed back in the arena, got Matthew Tkachuk, if you don't think the next season and a half would be sold out just from that alone, you're out of your mind. It would be complete mayhem. And, the whole city of St. Louis would jump on board as well through their prodigal sons coming in there. So the amount that I would trade for Matthew Tkachuk is probably I would be fired as the GM just for doing it, but I think 100%. It was so fun to do. Like, I put together a package where Jake Sanderson was just one of 3 pieces. Like, I don't even care. I don't even care anything to get Matthew Tkachuk here. But the bottom line, Jacob, is just the age that you're looking at. And that's why I was so all over getting Pierre-Luc Dubois, because you have this 20 to 24 from Chabot or 24 to 18 even with Sanderson. If you can move a couple of those younger, like 18, 19-year-old Stützle excluded, of course, and you can build into this 20 to 24 age group, you're looking at a complete roster. I almost said dynasty, but hey, let's get to the playoffs before we start calling them a dynasty.
Yeah, really though.
But man, you just get so excited when you look at the probabilities. So I'm really excited because this upcoming series, Calgary Ottawa, if Calgary loses 4 out of 5, there's going to be some heads turning. We have Haley Salvian coming on tomorrow on Locked On Senators.
Nice. Oh, nice.
And she was saying like the vibe in Calgary is weird. She's like they're a good team. They've been playing well. Like Johnny Gaudreau's a point per game, and people want his head on a stick. And you're looking around like, holy. So I think this is going to be a fantastic series. And how about Ottawa coming in with 2 straight wins? That's just fantastic.
I think we should point out, just so people don't get lick their chops too much about the Flames, they did just beat the Leafs 3-0 in Toronto.
I produced that game at 10:50, and that was a clinic by Calgary. A 7-7 on the PK against that power play. Pretty impressive stuff. But Ottawa's power play is coming in humming. So who knows?
It'll be good. I think it would be almost too poetic if the Flames were coming in if they got beat up by Toronto there.
Yeah. Good that they got that out of their system. And I got to be honest, like I said, I worked that game at TSN, and it was a situation where the Leafs just had their sea legs. Like, and this was they had a lot of injuries, and I don't think anyone blamed it on that. But you had Simmons, Thornton. I'm missing another forward. Hyman was out of the lineup.
Oh, okay.
And they were just beat up left, right, and center. And Freddie Anderson was a late scratch. They had Michael Hutchinson in goal. So all 3 goals were on deflections, though. 2 of them on the power play for Calgary. But hey, Calgary, that was a workmanlike win. Let's say they wanted it more, and that's what the post-game sound told me from the Leafs as well. It was a situation where the Flames pushed and the Leafs had no pushback. So I don't know whether that was a situation where the media was getting on them, the fans are getting on them. They have this one little push, and then it's back to Cinderella. The clock strikes midnight, or is it where they're building momentum and Ottawa better be on their A game coming on Thursday?
Yeah. It's weird that they haven't played them yet because they've played every other team. Man.
Yeah, they've had multiple series against these other teams.
Yeah, you'd think they'd work the schedule so you get more Tkachuk matchups head to head. But yeah, man, it's I see what you mean. It's tough to not fantasize about having Matthew Tkachuk here, but I mean, I would be shocked if the Flames moved him in any sort of trades. But yeah, speaking of his contract though, and not to keep going about this, but that's what concerns me about a Tkachuk extension, or Brady Tkachuk extension, just based that Matthew signed I think it was a 2-year.
Matthews just came off. He's on a 5-year right now.
Okay.
But that one walks him right to unrestricted free agency and the Arizona Coyotes. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So I don't know. It's easy to get wrapped up in it, but I mean, Dorian's not an idiot. He was down at ice level for overtime. He knows that Brady Tkachuk is their franchise.
And you know what? He locked up Shabbat for 8 years as well. This is the first year of that deal. So how great would it be to get Brady for 8 years and have those 1 year after the other? It would just be honestly perfect. And you know what you're building around for the next more better part of a decade.
So you say you want Brady for that extra year. If you offered him the 7x7 and he's got the 7 years, you got Shabbat and Brady Tkachuk walking into free agency at the same time.
Sounds like
Mark Stone and Erik Karlsson. But
True. I don't know why my brain went right to Panarin and Bobrovsky in Columbus doing the same thing with Dzingel, with Duchesne. Having those 2 guys. I think that just for the sake of what's left of Pierre Dorian's hairline, you gotta split that up by a year.
Yeah,
100%.
Hopefully.
So yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. This is about half an hour longer than any of our episodes have been. So
nice. We're just having a good time, man.
Yeah,
and you know what? I still have an hour more of talking.
We're giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, exactly. I still have an hour of talking in me too, but
I know Pilsy's here. That's sicko. I heard he's joining you guys on your next show.
Next game, so right after Calgary. So we'll pick his brain on that one. Hopefully it's another overtime win. We got to go 4-0.
Good thing it's a home game because Pilsy goes to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. So if it was one of the out west games, he would have had to catch the condensed game in the morning.
That was the other thing about that stretch where we just started these. It was that West Coast trip. So we're doing these at like 2 a.m. almost. It was nuts. But yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody make sure you go subscribe and follow the Locked On Sens podcast with Ross. And come check out the new Era Sens Discord that just opened up. There's a tweet in the on the new Era Sens Twitter for the Discord link. So come check that out. It's a great place for engagement. And we will see you next time on the post-game coverage. Thanks for joining us, Ross.
Hey, anytime, boys. Jacob, Jack, I really appreciate you having me. And yeah, I know Jack's joined us, but it was a long time ago. It's about time to get you back. Jacob, you're due for an appearance here as a Sens Central citizen. So we'll be in touch early on that. And thanks for having me again, guys. It's been a blast. And great to do it after a win, and maybe not the most earned win. You can see the other side of how that maybe last second should have been the other way. But a win's a win. And it was great to recap with you boys.
100%. Thanks for joining us.